Ladies and gentlemen, I am so thrilled to have my guest here today, but I want you to know right out the gate, if you saw her name in the title, you're probably thinking, wow, this bitch has run a shempire. She is an entrepreneur. She's an inventor, a creator. But when I tell you today, we are not going to inspire you to do shit. We are here to gossip and giggle. I am so excited to have such a fierce female and a fellow ATLian. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
Sara Blakely, how are you?
I'm super great.
Thank you for being here.
Of course.
I'm decked head to toe in Spanx. I have my Sneex on. I'll tell you what, girl.
You're on fire.
I'm on fire.
You're on fire.
You're on fire. How's life? How you been?
I've been great.
Yeah.
I've been good.
Just when we think that you are like a tired golden retriever ready to take a little break after you sold Spanx, you come out with a whole new idea. Now, we won't talk about business this whole time because I want to know you on a different level. I know you. Listen, you've done Shark Tank. You've done all of the big business moments. But I really thought after you sold Spanx for a minute, might take a nice vacation. But no, you doubled down.
I doubled down
on inventing shit.
I did.
So what are you doing now, girl?
Well, my feet hurt.
Same.
So
Throbbing.
Like I have extreme foot pain. I love high heels. They suck. They've hurt women's feet for far too long.
Right.
Men have been making them for like 400 years. And there hasn't been much change to the design. And I think that's always really interesting. Like so many things in society is iterating like crazy. And then you have something like a high heel. You see a picture of it from the 1500s. And we're basically going to parties in 2024 in a similar type shoe. And they hurt. So I set out to make a comfortable stiletto. Didn't know if it was going to be able to happen. 4 years in, I didn't get it to where I needed it to be. I was about to give up. And then I just said out loud, I just want him to be as comfortable as my sneaker. How hard can this be? Like, I used to, when I developed for Spanx, say, we put a man on the moon. How hard can this be? When I would try to convince all the men to make fishnets with a control top.
Right.
So we're not sitting on the grid all day and look like we sat on bad lawn furniture.
Right.
At the end of the day, the fishnets would come off and you look at your butt and you're like, I have a grid on my ass.
That's why I don't sit on patio furniture. I will sit on a couch kind of near a window, but I'm not going outside and sitting on patio furniture because I get up and it is full grill marks on the back of my thighs.
It is full grill marks, yeah.
And that's probably the smallest part of my body, so it's very triggering.
Cellulite grill. It's just not pretty. You're like, okay, I need this to So with this development, it was hysterical because I would literally tell all the men in the factories in Italy and Spain, which is where I mostly was trying to get it made, hey guys, we shot a go-kart from Earth to Mars, and we are driving it by remote control from Earth. Like, I think we can make a comfortable high heel. Anyway, once I said sneaker, I thought, okay, I cut a sneaker in half in my closet, basically attached it to the back of my stiletto just to see if I could figure out how those two worlds could merge. And I ended up doing it, and it's a comfortable stiletto, but it feels a lot like you're in a sneaker. Yeah. And so it's just like my love letter to women who can't stand in heels anymore like me.
I can't do it.
But they're fun and they're funky looking and they're fun to style. I love them with long jeans, how you have them styled.
So incredibly comfortable. And I originally did not order them because as a big-footed bitch, I get very anxious. So many people are like, oh, let me send something from my product line. I'm like, there's no way you're going to have a size 11. And sure enough, they showed up. And my fat foot, my Wisconsin cheddar block foot can fit in this Sneex. And it is so comfortable. I feel like I'm on top of the world. I got a little pep in my step today.
My family's from Wisconsin.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, do they have large feet as well?
No.
No? Okay. Well, I get it
But we
from my
like
father.
cheese. We like cheese.
We do love cheese.
We love cheese.
Yeah, my foot, the best way to describe it, and if listen, for other prototypes or other models as you continue to develop Sneex, I would love to come in because I have written letters. Literally, I have gone on other podcasts to say, can you please make women's wide? And they don't do it. Right. So I'm wearing a men's Nike, and that's even cutting off circulation.
Right. So the three things that I solved, the main three pain points were the toe box, no squeezing of the toes. There's a gap between the ball of our foot and the heel where our foot is suspended in a heel, and I filled that gap so you get whole foot support and more stability. And then the third thing I wanted to address was the weight distribution. We have way too much weight on the ball of our foot, which is excruciating, and there's one small piece of cardboard basically between the ball of our foot and like cement. And so I redistributed the weight. Even though you're in a 3-inch stiletto, you feel almost like it's 50-50. The weight is more like balanced, so you're not feeling all that pressure.
I have a quick request, okay? I'm asking for a lot on this podcast today. Even though
Bring it on, Heather.
I really feel empowered on stage when I wear heels. Is there any way I could get some custom Sneex boots? Because I'm feeling good in these, but I love to wear like a nice heeled boot on stage. So just as you move through the
How high do you want the boot? Like an ankle boot?
No, I like a knee high, like a sexy knee high boot with a heel, but I want this technology in it. I'm just throwing that out there. You know, I know you believe in manifestation. You ask, believe, receive. So I'm just going right to the source and putting it out there.
I mean, Heather, listen, you put that on your vision board, that shit's going to happen. Look, I'm looking at all your vision boards.
So the way your brain works, you're a vision board girly. You believed in this for a long time, haven't you?
Well, I've been practicing visualization and manifestation since the 80s.
Let's break that down.
Okay.
How did you get into it at first?
So I went through a really hard time in high school. I was 16. And I had a tragedy happen to a friend of mine, and she passed away, and that was really upsetting. And then my dad left home. My parents got separated. And on my dad's way out the door, he came in my bedroom and handed me a cassette tape series called How to Be a No Limit Person by Dr. Wayne Dyer. And he said,
were you like, this is an odd parting gift?
Yeah. I mean, it's like this middle-aged bald man with a bushy mustache. And my dad said, sweetie, I wish I was your age instead of 40 when I discovered this.
Oh, wow.
And I'm like in my bedroom, sitting on the floor. I started listening and I started crying immediately. I thought, I have just spent 16 years of my life being taught what to think, and no one has ever taught me how to think. And this voice was talking about visualizing what you want, manifesting, not fearing failure, law of attraction, willingness to not care about other people's opinions, which at 16 is all you care about.
It is the most embarrassing, pivotal moment in your life. I mean, I started doing stand-up in high school, and I remember I got up in front of everybody at the prom, and I'm like, this could either be social suicide or this is going to change my life. It is having, but being in that time of your life at 16.
Wait, I need to unpack that for a minute.
Yeah,
Were you asked to do that, or did you just go rogue?
I was asked to do it. I was at our prom. I went to this like very intense private school here in Atlanta, but basically the juniors would always do a secret performance for the seniors as like a send-off gift.
Okay.
So they said, Heather, I mean, I was always doing comedy. Will you do stand-up? And that was the first time I did it like a 30-minute set. I rose to the senior class, and I remember
30 minutes,
yeah,
Heather. That's a lot of material.
It's a lot of material. Well, I also went to school with a lot of dumbasses, so that was
you
helpful.
had material.
I had material. But I remember like having that leap of faith at that age, and only just, because you're saying you're 16, you're in a dark time. That is, you're so concerned about outside feelings and
like if people don't like me, it feels like you're dead.
Okay.
At that age. Like I'm not going to survive this. And so the one thing I want to just add to this with the Wayne Dyer is no one wanted to be stuck in my car after a party, okay? Because Heather,
you're like, guys, I know everyone's drunk, but I need y'all to be motivated right now.
Exactly. So everyone was listening to Bon Jovi and Madonna. And you would get in my car and it was like, what do you really want from your life? I always had these cassette tapes playing, Heather. I did. And everyone would be like, don't ride home with her. So then
don't ride home with her. That's the name of the episode. Just don't ride home with her. Because you're trying to motivate the youth of America.
I was single-handedly trying. I knew it was changing the trajectory of my life. And I'm like, I know you've had 11 Busch beers, but listen to this. Listen to this. And then I end up like 15 years later on the cover of Forbes. And the only thing that all my friends from Clearwater High texted me was, damn, should have listened to that shit. But I was amazing. That girl. I was that girl.
While everybody else is trying to make out in the back of a car.
Right.
You were like, step into my office.
Right.
We're going to be motivated.
Yes.
What is the overall theme of these cassette tapes? And can you still get your hands? I mean, hopefully
you can.
We have a DVD
now it's called streaming or something like that. But yeah, they're still out there. It's everything I said, like law of attraction, visualizing what you want, manifesting it, not caring what other people think, not fearing failure, like really just mindset, positive mindset. Like this is also something I tried to do in high school. I tried to do a few things with this mindset, but one of them was the girls always hated the other girl that their boyfriend had a crush on or would say was hot.
Right.
And I'm like, this is bullshit. And I would get all the mean girls together at school. And I would say, guys, we need to unite on this. This is your boyfriend's issue. Like, you're not in a relationship with the girl that he just said was hot that walked down the hallway.
Right.
Be mad at him. Let's not all try to destroy her.
Why haven't you run for president
that
yet?
didn't really.
Because I'm telling you right now, this is. Do feel like that there's a shift right now. Women are all banding together and like, I've
been trying since the 80s.
I know. It's tough. It's tough. I ran my sorority. It's tough. It's tough.
Let me tell you how that conversation went over at Clearwater High. Their boyfriend had said I was hot, and it was very upsetting. I tried to convince them all that this was just that person's way of trying to get their girlfriend upset and jealous, right? Like, I'm a pawn in this. And they listened to me. They took it in. And then at the end of that party, they put a bumper sticker on the windshield of my car that said, "I would slap you, but shit splatters."
Okay. And how did you handle that?
I was listening to so much Wayne Dyer. I was like, I literally did. I didn't care. I was like, she's not in a good place.
Yeah.
She's hurting. She's an angry, sad person. I
tell
send
you, though,
her love.
I can tell you're a great empathizer because I am too. But I have said, Sarah, that will eventually be my downfall because I'm like, a business manager could be stealing, millions of dollars. But I'm like, but they were going through a bad time.
They're going through a hard time.
They had to send their
We're
kid.
empaths.
Yeah,
We're empaths.
We're empaths.
Extraordinaire. That's why you're good at comedy. You are in other people's psyche.
I am.
You know how other people feel.
But it will be to my detriment one day. Like, I don't have an ability to let people go. You could run my entire family over with your car.
My friends are since I'm 3.
Same. I don't change. I just bring more along. Like, I had the same friends since kindergarten, and then I just, through every different twist and turn in my life, I'll just keep adding different people from these different
Nobody
periods.
gets let go.
No one gets let go.
That could also be the name of the podcast.
No
butt left behind.
No butt left behind. So I started manifesting and creating vision boards. And I'll tell you, out of I enjoy to do little creative projects. I like to tinker around, I like to scrapbook, I like to doodle. And I would just take edibles on New Year's Day about, 6 or 7 years ago. And I was like, okay, I'm hungover. I'm gonna take an edible. I'm gonna doodle and scrapbook. And then a year and a half later, the shit started to come true. And then I started to read about it. Like, when you put it down, when you write it down, sometimes you just like set it and forget it, and you'll be so surprised how some of this shit will come true.
I'm a big proponent of daydreaming, and I think I'm actively visualizing my future and how I want it to look and be through mental daydreaming. And I feel like when you do that and take the time to do that, you're co-creating your life with the universe, and the universe is showing up, and the universe will co-create with you. And the other thing I tell people when they're like, "How do you manifest? How did you end up where you were?" And a lot of times I ask. So I will say very specifically, universe, I need a sign, or should I do this, yes or no? Or if I'm supposed to do this, I need you to, show me.
Make it very obvious.
Beyond.
Yeah. Wow.
So I do that all the time. And then people will say, well, I've never asked. I'm like, well,
there you go.
There you go. So try it. It's almost like when I started Spanx and everyone in the beginning was like, how in the world did you get into Neiman Marcus?
I just showed up.
No, they're like, there are trade shows. We've been going once a quarter for years. They say about 7 years in, the Neiman buyer will come to your booth and then you might get a chance. What did you do, Sarah? And I'm like, I called them.
Yeah, I picked up the phone.
And they did. They look at me and I look at them and I'm like, I didn't even know there were trade shows.
Wow.
So, that's just like so many people aren't really directly asking or directly being really intentional about the goal and what they want, and be really specific about it too. But yeah,
it's also a level of delusion, which I think has worked out for me.
Listen,
I feel the same way. Like, coming up in comedy, I did not do it the traditional route, and so many people will say like, "Well, how did you get here?" I'm like, "Well, I just didn't take no for an answer. I just kept going. I kept creating. I did never at any point say I'm going to wait for somebody else's permission in this." Situation.
So I have mad respect for you because I'm one of probably not many people on the planet who can actually really relate to you because I've done stand-up comedy.
That's how you got your start.
Well, no, I didn't get my start like that. But I sold fax machines for 7 years, and then I would just do comedy at night on, kind of as a side thing. But I just have mad respect because I've gone through the process. And the amount of vulnerability, like, you don't know if you're funny or not until you are willing to get on stage. It is so terrifying. And
Were you doing stand-up in Florida?
I did stand up. I did 3 main places. I
Okay.
did Mark Ridley's Comedy Club in Detroit. I
Yep.
did the Improv in Dallas, and I did the Punchline in Atlanta. And that's because I was selling fax machines door to door, and I became the trainer, and that's where they sent me.
Wait,
so
so
because I wasn't getting enough rejection during the day of people slamming the door and saying, "I don't want your damn fax,"
Like, let me
I
go
got
do a
on
set.
stage and did open mic night at these places.
You might be an absolute insane person.
I'm a sicko. So
But you love the art of a sale, and that's what it is. I tell everybody, there's that's why, if God forbid this didn't work out, I would want to be doing pharmaceutical sales and selling Viagra to everybody, because it's the same rush. You get out there, and in the first, I'd say 90 seconds.
Don't you? I love to make people laugh. It's the
Yeah.
greatest feeling on the planet of Earth. I love it. It's like a true, deep human connection with somebody else. It's special. So, but I also want to talk to you about this because I know this just from comedy. A lot of my comedy came from neurosis and pain. So are you like a really sad person and complicated?
I am one of the weird, I guess I'm an anomaly in this business. I guess
Wait, are you a happy comedian?
I'm a happy comedian.
What?
I do have flares up of eczema, sciatica,
That's-
acid
yeah.
reflux. I've had my fair share of medical issues.
That's
But no, I
Wow.
always knew I wanted to do comedy. Even as a kid, I obviously, listen, when my dad died, I said that some of my best material came from a really dark place because it changed my perspective and my point of view. It was less about me and more about, understanding the world in a richer way. But I will say, I was in an AP psychology class one day, and my teacher said, Heather, the reason you make a joke about everything is because you're hiding from the truth. I was like, I actually think it's the opposite. I think I rip the Band-Aid and I say exactly what's making me uncomfortable right to your face. But fair enough, please don't fail me from this class.
Right.
But school was hard for me. I was always a politician. I knew I was student body president, but if
You
put-
were?
Yeah, because I knew how to work a room. But if you put me in algebra, I was lucky to pass.
You should run for president.
I would actually love to.
I mean-
well, I think I would be great, but also that's a thankless job. It
Yeah,
really is.
yeah.
And you may get murdered,
Yeah, there's that.
There's that. Okay, but so you were selling fax machines, you're doing comedy, you come up with Spanx. How long did it take to grow Spanx before you sold it?
Well, I owned it for 21 years and I never took any outside investment. So I started it with $5,000 that I had from selling fax machines, and I just self-funded it the whole time.
Good for you.
Which meant I hustled so hard and bootstrapped so hard. So, I've launched Sneex recently and everyone's like, how is it different? I'm like, well, when I started Spanx, the internet was not really a thing and there was no social media. So in order for people to know about this product I had invented,
You're standing on a street corner.
I stood for 8 to 10 hours a day in department stores for years promoting the product to hopefully tell 40 women that day that might tell 5 friends. And I was selling something no one could see.
That's a great point.
So now at least Sneex, like people see you walk by and go, what's that? It like sells itself and advertises itself. So I got lucky because a lot of people started flashing their Spanx. Like I get flashed everywhere I go. But
sure.
I think before Spanx, no one talked about their undergarments. No celebrity would ever go, oh, by the way, let me tell you what I'm wearing under my dress.
Right.
But I think because the name Spanx was fun and the product was so revolutionary for women and how it made them feel, they just wanted to talk about it.
There's nothing more empowering than just feeling like you are stepping out with your best foot forward. And when I remember when I got my first pair of Spanx, I was like, oh yeah, somebody read my mind. We are slick like a lizard walking into this sorority function right now. Truly, you're not only an inventor, but man, I always heard that like, in order to really make money, you solve a problem.
Yeah.
Right? You can be as creative as the day is long, but when you solve a problem, that's when you start making some cash. Can I ask you, I'm going to ask you some very trivial questions. With your first real check, what'd you get?
Okay, it's so funny that you asked that. I am not material motivated. So after 2 years of Spanx, and I was profitable and doing well and making a lot more than I made selling fax machines, my brother, who had a long list of how I should spend my money, calling me weekly, he was like, Sarah, you have to buy yourself something. You have to celebrate. You have to buy yourself something. So he kept asking me. I'm like, I'm fine. My car works. I don't really need it. And then eventually he's like, well, what do you like to do? I go, I like to fall asleep watching TV. He goes, bam, go buy yourself a flat screen TV. So he took me to Best Buy. And I bought the Mac Daddy. The guy took me in the back room, the little here's where people with real dough go.
Uh-huh.
And I went back there, and he showed me the flat screen is $8,000.
You were in the champagne room
I was in
the Best Buy.
No, Best Buy, like caviar.
boom boom room.
Yeah, they were like handing me like water. They're like, can I get you anything to drink? And so I bought myself a flat screen TV, and that was my big first purchase. It was either $8,000 or $10,000, and I felt like I would lay in bed at the end of selling Spanx all day. My feet would hurt, and I'd look at that screen and be like, I have arrived.
Goosebumps.
I have arrived.
That is.
No one's ever asked me that. That's my first big purchase.
Wow.
Flat screen TV, which now go for what, like $1,200?
Yeah, I mean, well, the frame TVs are a little expensive, but but I'm the same way. I was never a designer gal. I mean, I have this one Moschino bag. It is gold, and when I say it's the ugliest thing you've ever seen, shout out to Jeremy Scott. And I was walking in Soho with my husband, and I said, you know what, honey, I've never really bought myself anything nice. And he looked in the window and he goes, that's the ugliest bag I've ever seen. That's screaming new money. You have to buy it. It was under $1,000, and I bought that bag. I wore it my first year on tour. I mean, I would whip that thing around my head at the airport like I have made it. And I put it in an acrylic box in my office at home. And that is my favorite thing. Just to think that was a moment where I was like, I needed that. I mean, it's hideous, but that was just my one thing where I said, I got to have that bag, you know?
I love that.
Yeah.
So I have two things about that. One is I had a red backpack, my lucky red backpack from college.
Right.
It was dirty. It was Eastpak. It was really not. It was a gross backpack. But I, in my mind, was like, this is lucky. So when I went and landed Neiman Marcus, I flew to Dallas, met with the buyer. I brought it. My friends were begging me. They're like, Sarah, you cannot present in your dirty, lucky red backpack. Buy a Prada bag, return it the next day, like whatever you need to do. You can't show up there. And I, lo and behold, brought that nasty red backpack. I pulled out the prototype. I mean, this lady was so impeccably dressed, right? But I was like, this is my bag. That's lucky. So I had that for a long time. And then to your point of buying something, someone asked me this the other day. When I was selling fax machines door to door, I went into a watch shop in California. I was training other people how to sell fax machines, and I had a little spare time, so I went to the mall. And there was this shop, I think it was called Tornau. Anyway, they had nice watches. I look in there. I'm looking at all these fancy watches. I look at this one watch that I think is understated and probably the cheapest one in the thing. The lady's like, this is Audemars Piguet. And I'm like, oh, well, I'd like to see it anyway. Anyway, she brings it out. The people gather around and they're like, this is expensive. I mean, it was like the full Pretty Woman moment, right? Except for I didn't have a sugar daddy. I was like on a fax machine
You're about
budget.
to start screaming, huge mistake, big mistake. Yeah.
In 20 years, that's a big mistake. And so I'm like, okay, well, I'd still like to try it on. And they're like, well, have you heard of Audemars Piguet? I'm like, no. And anyway, it was very expensive. It was an either $8,000 or $10,000 watch. And I remember I just took this really deep breath and I go, I'll take it. And I'd never heard of it. And none of my friends have ever heard of it. Everyone was wearing a Rolex. That was like the known status thing. So anyway, I left with this watch and just thought, this is a symbol to myself that one day I will be able to buy something like this with no problem. And then I wore that watch. Nobody knew what the heck it was. I was the fax trainer in my Audemars Piguet little watch, like staying in like Holiday Inn and cheap motels across the country.
Absolutely living outside of my means right now. But you know, it is such a.
That's the only time I bought, and that was more of a symbol to myself. Like it became the way that your bag was sort of an icon to you of like, this is a moment for me.
Yeah. That's beautiful, though. I love that. Like just buying it and saying, yes, one day this going into this watch shop
will be,
and buying all of them will not even be a thought.
Not even a thought.
You know, as successful as you've been and are, you have been so philanthropic. And Tina and I were talking about this earlier. We were like, you know, you've got people like Melinda Gates, yourself, Oprah, all of these big, incredibly successful women who are giving a lot of it away. I'm like, you don't see the guys doing it. You really don't. We'll call them out. You know, are there certain charities that you specifically like to work with?
I feel so lucky to be a successful woman. Like I look at my mom and my grandmothers. I mean, my mom had so few options. She's only 22 years older than me. I mean, if you think about how long human beings have been on Earth, and I made the cut by 22 years that I was even given a chance to do something more that I felt like fulfill my potential, my dreams. I didn't want to squander that. And so I think when you feel this level of success, I think there's this strong urge to want to support and help other women that maybe men haven't felt because they haven't been as held back. I mean, I was just saying to my team driving here, I mean, women weren't allowed to have a credit card in their name until 1974. I was born in 71. So I was born at a time where you couldn't even have a credit card as a woman.
That was the entire art direction of my special that just came out, Breadwinner. We wanted to shoot the beginning to make you feel like it was that time, because in the 70s, and I'm getting out of this like old limo, and we put like a grainy filter on it, because that was one of the things when I started doing research about how women, I mean, you couldn't have an Amex. You couldn't own property for a long time.
No, you weren't allowed to have a house in your name as a woman. So let me ask you, do you know what year, maybe you know this, but I was so shocked. Do you know what year women were allowed to get a business loan and actually take out a loan to start their own business without a man?
I don't, but I feel like it was about 3 days ago. It was not long ago. When was
1988.
Are you kidding me?
I was a junior at Clearwater High when women were given the right legally to take out a loan to start their own business.
That's diabolical. What?
I mean, I started Spanx only 12 years after that happened. So anyway, I just feel so compelled to lift up other women, to support other women. I feel like it's a big pay it forward, because there are women still around the world right now who don't have this opportunity just because of their gender.
It's interesting watching my mom's generation. I mean, she's 77 and fierce and feisty, but even with like her art business, I'm like, it's not a hobby. My mom's an incredible artist.
So is my mom.
She did not know how to self-promote. Their generation does not
No.
know how to even go out into the world, you know, and we would be out and about, and I put her in art shows, and she was loving it and selling out of everything. I mean, crushing it. She's like, oh, this little thing. I said, Mom, quit being humble about it.
Yeah.
This is your art, your life. Like, lean in and show, you know, rip your top off, show your tits, and be like, buy my art. You know?
Right.
Like, what are we doing? Your mom's an artist. What kind of art does
My
she
mom's
do?
an artist, a stay-at-home mom and an artist. She majored in art in college, fine art, and she mostly does watercolor.
Oh, watercolor soothing. My mom's got like, she's just huffing fumes with the acrylics. You know what I mean? I go down the basement. I'm like, I don't know if she's been like doing whippets, but she's just, you know, high as a kite in her unventilated art studio that I built her. I was like, I think we need to open a door or something. But watercolor, that's, I mean, such a talent.
Yeah.
Does she sell her art?
Well, eventually I got her to, the same thing. She wouldn't show anyone her art. She was so nervous, so terrified. I'm like, Mom, you're very talented. And so eventually I signed her up without her knowing for an art show. When she found out, she started crying, was so nervous, and said, Sarah, I'll do it only if you sit there with me. My mom sat in the back of the tent, and I'm obviously just like you. I didn't show him my tits, but I'm literally like, step right up. Ellen Blakely, the best artist in town. And I was in high school trying to hawk her art for her, and she won the show as the best artist.
Yes, she did.
So then that gave her confidence. She got the blue ribbon, and then she started sort of selling it. So yeah, now
I still have to run my mom's art booths. Okay, that's the only thing. Is you were doing this in high school. To this day, my mom's like, well, I'm not doing the show unless you're there. And I'm like, Mom, I just did 2 shows. I'll have to be touring on the weekend, fly down to an art show, and then hustle her art. I'm like, this is a full-time job for me, Mom. Like, you got to help me out.
So I want to talk to you about Breadwinner because there's a lot of interesting things about women making money and how that played out in my life.
Right.
And I'm curious how it's playing out in your life.
The whole idea for Breadwinner was, this was my first, obviously the special I talk about my first year of marriage, and then how like my husband supported me financially, emotionally for a long time. And then I started making more money. And it was interesting because I'd always get asked in interviews, especially when I was promoting the special. Folks would say, what did your husband think of this special with you saying that you make more money than him? And I thought to myself, you don't ever ask male comedians this. What male comedians have been getting on stage, ripping their families new assholes, talking about, beating their chest and exposing parts of their life, and nobody thinks twice about it.
No.
So why is it now that I'm under a microscope? Because I'm a woman. And, of course, I'm married to a great guy who's super solid, and I couldn't have done it without him, and we've been together forever. So, it is tongue-in-cheek with us, but it is interesting how it's the first question. People think, is your husband okay with that? Is he secure in it? And I'm like, of course he is. He's shouting from the rooftops. He's in the wing being like, go harder, go for it.
Same.
He also gets to play a lot of golf and, take nice vacations, so it's worked out well for him.
Right.
I mean, how did it work with you?
Well, I got married at 37. So
Okay.
I dated a long time,
Yeah.
which gave me a lot of material on my little open mic nights
Right.
where I was shaking in my boots. I'm like, let me tell you about this bad date I had the other night. But anyway, it would always come out that, Sarah, it's no problem. I have no issue with this. And then it would just become an issue that I was successful in making potentially more money than they were. I think the dynamic just went south over and over and over again.
I'm sure.
And I was so sad about that and frustrated with that. But when I met Jesse, I was 35, and we got engaged. I was so excited. And then this is how much this was on my mind. He hadn't really talked to me about, my husband is such a guy's guy. I don't know if you know Jesse. But
I know Jesse.
He's like a serial entrepreneur.
He keeps asking me to do an Ironman, and I said, "You're out of your
Yeah,
damn mind.
like-
I can't even make it to the turkey trot." Okay?
Yeah, exactly. So I'm married to that man, and he had no idea what Spanx was when I first started dating him. I mean, I remember he asked me if Spanx were sold at Barnes and Noble.
Wait, and how long had you been growing your business from this point?
Spanx was 7 years old.
Oh, so it's
and really, it was
established.
like, part of society.
wheeling and dealing.
I was wheeling
Right.
and dealing, and I'm dating this guy from New York who started Marquis Jet. And he's like, "So what's Spanx? Are they at Barnes and Noble?" I'm like, "No, they're not at Barnes and Noble, and then he didn't know what to do with it. He was struggling. I'd see all the guys at all these parties in New York, and they'd be like, "So what's your girlfriend do again?" And finally one day he was like, "I don't know, man. She's like the Michael Jordan of underwear." And they were all like, "Whoa, we get it."
Which is an accurate description of what you were doing.
Which is like the only way he could find the words. But anyway, he didn't really understand how successful it was. And so we're engaged. We're at the Upper West Side. We're at an Italian restaurant. He's vegetarian. He's eating some spaghetti with a bunch of veggies in it. So annoying.
Right.
I've got the side of fries and 3 other things that are fried on the table next to me. And I go, "Honey, I have something to tell you." And he just freezes and he looks so nervous. Like, is she breaking off the engagement? We're getting married in a few months. And he goes, "What?" And I go, "I think I make more money than you think I do." I swear.
And how did he react to that?
And he had spaghetti hanging out of his mouth. And I remember he sucked the piece up and he looked at me and he got a little bit emotional, a little bit. And he goes, "Well, couldn't have happened to a nicer person," and kept eating his spaghetti.
Wow.
And nothing changed.
Nothing changed.
Nothing. And the more successful I am, the more he cheers, the happier he is. He's
How did
so
y'all
proud.
meet?
We met in Vegas at a poker tournament, and neither one of us play poker.
This is amazing. So he doesn't
And
know what
let
you're
me tell you,
doing.
he
Yeah.
is from New York. He calls me Sara.
Sara.
It's in
Oh,
the
he's got
draw.
that accent.
It's in the draw.
Yeah.
I'm from Clearwater Beach, Florida.
Right.
My family's like, "Wait, you're marrying a guy who calls you Sara?" I'm
Does
like,
he also
he's
say salmon and almonds?
Oh, yeah.
Because my husband's from Westchester and that's all he does. He's like, "Heather, you want salmon?" And I'm like, "No, it's salmon. Jeff.
Salmon.
Salmon.
And it's
Enunciate."
in the drawer.
Yes.
It's not in the draw. So anyway, I have the same thing. He's from Long Island. And
Oh, yeah.
He's from
Strong Island.
He's from Roslyn, and he's a through and through New Yorker, man. Wrote the song "Go New York, Go" for the Knicks. Used to be a rapper. My husband, I'm married to one of the first white rappers.
Oh my God, that's iconic.
I
I would
know.
lead with that. I would have started
I
the
know,
podcast today.
you're right.
Just so
What-
you know, I know I'm an entrepreneur and
What
an
am I
inventor,
even
but
saying? You're right. Him and Vanilla Ice. It was just Jesse and Vanilla Ice. My husband was under the name Jesse James. And his 2 most popular songs, which were on MTV all the time in the 80s, were "Shake It Like a White Girl"
Yes.
and "College Girls Are Easy."
Oh my God. Did you have a business manager doing a background check on him, being like, "Listen, I know he owns a big jet company, but I don't know if this is a good match"?
Well, my dad did.
Oh, of course.
Oh, listen, my dad. So my mom's an artist and my dad's a litigator. So I say I'm what happens when an artist and a trial attorney mate. It's just fascinating. I mean, that these 2 people got together. But my dad, I'm 35. I've been single. It hasn't worked out for me. I'm 35 years old. It's getting down to the wire here for me. And my dad gave Jesse, the very first time he ever met him on a plane, an IQ test.
Oh my God. Needed to figure out if he was Mensa level.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm dying. Okay. My dad, who is Mensa, by the way, my dad is
Everyone in my family claims they're Mensa. They've never even put the test in front of me, so I think they're worried about me.
Me either.
Yeah, they've never asked once.
They've never asked
But I've been
once.
the most successful thus far, so fuck everybody.
Me too. I come from like my grandfather was Mensa, my father, no one's bothered.
But it's because they overthink it.
I'm a terrible test taker, so
Horrible.
something went wrong with me. I don't think I'm Mensa.
My SATs, a blind cat could have done a better
Same.
job. Okay. All right. Wow. We are two
Same.
kindred spirits. Continue,
Okay.
though.
So-
So you're on an airplane.
So I'm on an airplane. I'm on a small airplane. It's a private plane. And it's just my dad, Jesse, and me. And I'm so excited for my dad to meet him. My dad's reading the paper. Jesse's sitting across from him, facing him. My dad lowers the paper like a scene in a movie and goes, "So, Jesse, 2 trains."
Oh, no.
Yeah. One freaking train is going like 85 miles per hour one direction. The other one's going this fast. How long before they meet? I wanted to die. I'm looking at my
Crawling
dad.
out of your
I'm
skin.
crawling out of my skin and like going like this with like the slit across my throat. Like, Dad, I'm 35. I'm single. Like,
Don't fuck this
like,
up for me.
Like, let's scrap the IQ test. And I told Jesse the other day we were being interviewed, and someone was like, "What was on your list?" I'm like, "Well," and I wasn't even thinking about what I was saying. Because Jesse's sitting there, I go, "Well, when I was younger, I had a really long list." I'm like, my list was like cute, smart, funny, and then I'm like, and then as I got older, it was like no criminal record,
Yep.
normal.
Yeah,
Isn't
you're like-
normal just
Normal. I don't even care if you're messy.
normal?
Just normal
is
and kind.
so underrated.
So underrated. I know it's hard. We wear 2 hats, or it's like, don't take shit from anybody. Like, be the boss, babe. You're like, I just want somebody who's like kind of funny and like
Normal.
Just normal. I want normal. Okay, so then how you got married right after that? Oh, did he pass the IQ test? What was his
Yes,
answer?
he did. He got it right.
Oh, wow.
I know. I was like sweating. I was nervous.
I would imagine your dad would have like opened the emergency door, shoved his ass out, and been like, "Good luck to you, buddy."
Yeah, probably.
So you get married, and then I feel like I'm a late bloomer. I'm 37 now. I've been a late bloomer in my career, and then the pressure to I'm trying to wrap my head around
Yes.
having kids, and
I know.
only have 1 embryo on ice, and I got to do it again. And everyone's like, "Oh man, Heather, a baby would look good on you." And I'm like, "Yes, but I also am in a weird space where, of course, I want to have a family.
Yep.
But I'm also in a selfish spot where I have worked forever to get to do what I want to do. And people really don't talk about that, especially as women, us having those deep conversations with ourselves, like, when is the right time? How do you do it? I mean, when did you decide to have kids?
I had my first child at 38.
Yeah. Oh, God, there's hope. Thank God there's hope. All right. Okay. At
Yes.
38.
Yes.
Okay.
So I understand exactly where you are. I
Yeah.
understand the pressures. I understand the anxiety around it. I understand all the feelings. I think it's a little more accepted now by society, which is great because I'm older than you. I'm 53. And when I was single, like, it was relentless.
Right.
And then when I didn't have children, it was relentless, like well-meaning people. But, every wedding I went to for a decade was like,
When are you going to have kids?
hang in there. Someone's going to figure out you're a good catch. I'm like, thanks. Can I have a vodka cranberry, please? Make it a double, whatever cheap vodka you're serving. I mean, I got invited to every wedding for a decade without a +1. And I'd get the dreaded call from my friend, "We're on a budget. I'm sorry, we're only allowing people who are engaged or married to bring a +1. I mean, the amount of times I got seated at the kid table, shoot me. Shoot me. I show up to the weddings. I'm like at the kid table because I'm the one odd person out. And then the older women at there were like, "You're just so cute. I don't get this. Why are you single?" Because it was like so foreign to them that I might be single by choice.
Right.
It was like I just hadn't been picked yet.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
Isn't
you're
that-
only single because you have not been picked yet. And girl, hang in there. Someone is going to pick you sooner. And I wanted to be like, wait, like I'm kind of, doing this by choice because I
Also,
haven't met the right person. And
There's nothing worse than like the pick me girl energy. I mean, my friends and I talk about that all the time. When you're around that group, whether they're married or not, and it's that pick me energy, and you're like, no, I'm actually focusing on myself.
They even made us line up and try to fight each other for a freaking bouquet that got thrown over
fuck
somebody's
that.
head so we could be next. I'd never participated with that. I was like always off to the side drinking my vodka and cranberry. Like, I'm not duking anything out for this bouquet. But I will tell you that then the relentlessness of kids. And I had a lot of anxiety about it. And I started getting massive anxiety at 34 because I personally, and it's such a personal journey, I knew I wanted my own children.
Right.
And that was very important to me. I had visualized it. So I
Right.
knew it was going to happen. I just didn't know when or how. And I obviously needed the right guy to show up. But for me, and I I went to the doctors at 34 and I was like, I want to freeze my eggs. And they said, Sarah, we are 8 years away from that being possible. We could take your money and freeze your eggs now, but the technology's not there yet to thaw it. And so we're really sorry. You're just a little too
Early to the game.
early to the game.
Wow.
If you had a man, we could freeze your embryo, and the technology to thaw an embryo is better, but a single egg is too fragile and we don't have it there. So I was 34 and was like, okay, I have no plan B as far as that. If I don't end up meeting the right person in time, then and
You do feel like the window is closing.
oh, and men don't feel this at all.
At all.
At all. I mean, like they can have babies till they're 80. I mean, so there's like this finite window that women are dealing with that's really stressful. And the last thing you want to do is start telling the guy you're just starting to date, like, hello, my clock is ticking. I mean, there's
Can I get a little
there's
semen on the side in this cup real quick? Do you want to make an embryo?
Nothing less sexy than being like, my eggs are going bad and my milk's expiring or whatever the hell you want to say to the guy. You're trying to be really cool, like you got all the time in the world, and you're like, damn.
You're fighting youth
Does he
in general.
know that like I'm running out of my time?
When it was crazy, I did IVF 3 times, and I got really close with the nurses as I was going through my embryo creating and egg freezing journey. And they told me the old guys who come in to the clinics, they will always give like a fake sample because, it's like you said, guys can have kids into their 80s.
Yeah.
Old guy comes in, 20-year-old new wife, right? Young wife. And they would spit in the cups. And they'd be like, hey, we need a real sample. So they would just tell the wives or the girlfriends, hey, we're just not getting a clear sample. We haven't gotten a clear sample, but the guys would spit in the cup because they clearly didn't want to have kids. They were done having kids. They didn't want to have kids with their younger.
No, wait, instead of it being sperm,
instead
it was
of it being
spit?
sperm, they would spit. And they would
Stop it right
now. Of course,
now.
because of HIPAA, they can't say anything. They're just like, hey, we haven't been able to get a good read. That wasn't a great sample. That wasn't a great sample. They're like, oh, we see everything. The men will come in here and sabotage the whole situation because they're like, oh, yeah, I'm done having kids. My kids are grown and I have grandkids. I don't want to have kids, because every woman wants the kid too, right?
Wow.
Yeah. It's wild. I know.
It's wild.
I went through IVF, and that was just, I didn't know what I didn't know until I was sitting going through my 3rd round. Like, why did no one prepare me for this?
No one. So this is my beef. So everyone would do the blood work in my 30s, and the gynecologist would say, Sarah, you have a really good FSH level. You're going to be able to have kids into your 40s. You have a huge egg reserve, okay?
Right.
No one told me about the quality of my eggs. It does not matter if I have eggs from here to if they're not good.
Yeah, if they're DCs, we can't use them, honey.
So like I'm sitting on, I had so many eggs, but it was like the quality. So I just kept getting this false confidence from gynecologists. Like you have plenty of time to have kids, which was true. I mean, I could get pregnant very easily all the way up until honestly my mid 40s.
Wow.
But I kept miscarrying because it was the quality of my eggs, I mean, we don't know 100% sure it was me. I'm just speculating.
Right.
I'm married to a guy who's almost a fruitarian and runs 100 miles. I think the issue's me. But, who knows for sure. But anyway, no one ever told me, like, you might not have great quality. Then I learned this stuff. This stat blew my mind. When you're 20, 90% of your eggs are good. When you're 40, 90% of your eggs are bad.
Was never told this once, even at the clinic.
And also, like, every month matters. Like,
You're right.
Like the difference between 37 and 37 and a half. Like if you haven't tried or frozen your eggs is enormous. And same with 38 and 39, So anyway,
I tell young
learned
women
a
all the
lot.
time
I learned a lot.
Go freeze them early if you can.
I would 100%.
If your business will pay for it too, because a lot of companies will pay for it now.
Yep.
Go put that shit on ice.
100%. 100%.
Yeah, I've got to figure that out. I mean, I'm just being candid. I got to have a baby in like the next year, and I'm doing IVF to the extent that I did it really destroyed my body too, and not just in like a vanity way.
Yeah, it's hard.
It's my hair
very
was
hard.
falling out.
Yep.
I was having all sorts of medical issues. I had giant ovarian cyst afterwards because there was such, you're injecting yourself with all these hormones.
Right.
I had an ovarian cyst rupture on an airplane. I mean, I couldn't even like do my
Wait,
job.
that's the most painful thing on the planet. Did you? I mean, I've had that happen twice. It is. What happened to you on a plane? Did you fall to the ground?
I did. I had to ask. And of course, women, we never ask for help. I was flying from New York to London, and I'm about an hour into the flight, and I woke up from a nap, and I thought my appendix had ruptured.
Of course.
And of course, I went to the galley, and I'm like, hi, I'm so sorry. Can I get a little help? I think my appendix is ruptured. And they're like, how you're not, like absolutely in a seizure right now. We don't know. And then they called a nurse on board, and she just kept saying, it was a lot of Brits on the flight. She's like, I think there's a baby stuck in your fallopian tube. She's like, your appendix did not rupture. And I'm like, well, I get ovarian cyst. And then she figured out it was an ovarian cyst rupture. But my whole ovary flipped upside down.
Yes.
Because I had been juicing myself with so many drugs. Oh,
Heather,
it was wild.
that is,
I know.
I've been through a lot in my life. The ovarian cyst rupturing. For me, this is my story really quick.
Yeah.
I was driving back from a wedding in South Carolina, back to Florida. I'm in my late 20s. I'm like, something doesn't feel right. I'm driving. I'm on the border of Georgia and Florida in some who knows where. I pull off the side of the road. I go into the gas station that is the sketchiest gas station in America, probably. And I'm like, barely made it to the bathroom. I collapsed in the bathroom.
Yeah.
I couldn't get off the floor of the bathroom for 4 hours. So I'm lying on this floor of the nastiest gas station bathroom. And I remember all these people are banging on the door and going like, what's going on in there? And the only thing I could do was I could take my hand and just go like move my hand enough that the ring I had on hit the door to make one little sound. And they'd go, oh, sorry, I didn't know someone was in there. Meanwhile, the guy who worked there that had like 2 teeth saw
was
me.
not worried.
No, he saw me go in. And 4 hours later, I come out like I barely make it to the counter. I'm like, I think I might need you to call 911. I don't know. Can I have Advil? And he's like, you want Advil? All right.
In all fairness to him, he's at the Georgia-Florida border. He sees this shit every other day. He's like,
Yeah.
Tamara had another incident. I mean, he's used to this.
You're probably right. Anyway, I was like, in my mind, because I'm a woman, I'm like, should I call 911 or should I get Advil? And then I got Advil and I drove the rest of the way.
This is how delusional we are. I did not want to even ask anybody for help on this flight.
No.
Because I'm thinking, I'm going to inconvenience everybody on the flight. And then what if they have to turn around? And then if there really is a medical, I was embarrassed. And then I had a full coercion. They finally drugged me and they held me in, I was like behind a curtain where they keep all the trash. And I was just curled up in a ball. And then I had to be taken off on a stretcher. And I've never been so embarrassed in my life. But don't worry, after I left the hospital, they made me go back through customs. So they're like, you got to claim customs. So I had to go back to Heathrow from the hospital and walk through as I was still dying. Yeah. Wait, you're in it. Hold on. We have to break this down. You're in a gas station bathroom.
The amount of, I can't describe what was on the floor
and
of
you
this
never thought
bathroom.
to call 911 in that moment because you're just like, what's happening?
Well, I didn't know what was happening. I couldn't move. I thought it was a
Yeah.
very bad period because I was bleeding a lot. There was a lot of other stuff going on. Like it was just a bizarre situation. So I'm laying on the floor and I had no strength and I couldn't move.
That's how I felt when the assist was happening. I'm like, no, surely this is just a bad period.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
The same way. My God. And then did it happen again?
Yes, it happened one other time, but not as severely. And I was at home, and then I kind of knew what was happening.
Right.
I didn't think that like I'd been shot. It's the most electrifying, horrific pain ever.
And it's so concentrated, and then when it goes away, it just
Goes
gone.
away, right.
That was what I couldn't describe. I'm like, I don't know how to explain, but 6 hours later, I was like in a pub having a Guinness, just like, we're good. I don't know what to tell you.
I'm in a business group with 10 men, okay?
Oh, okay.
Because in 2000, there was no business group that they could put me in that had other women. I go once a month and meet with these guys for 21 years. And I go on one trip a year with them. It's 10 men and me. They're all these very smart, successful businessmen. And I have said, I feel like Jane Goodall. Like I am, instead of observing gorillas and chimpanzees in their natural habitat, I get to observe men. They forget I'm there. So I'm like literally calling my friends and going, boy, do I have insight. Like I need to talk to you guys about this. So it's wild. But anyway, I've said to them over and over again, because we do updates once a month. And like the amount of stuff that I'm dealing with as a woman trying to, do this they cannot relate to any part of this, like miscarriages and this and
and
in vitro and all of this
too.
Right.
Even though you're running this empire, you're still a mom and a wife. And that was my thing with Breadwinner. I was like, I still want to come home and make sure that I'm checking off all these boxes of things I'm supposed to do in this like maternal or female role.
Of course.
But I'm still having to go deal with fucking male comedians all day in a nightclub. Like, kill me.
Right. And I've been in the group for over 20 years and never once in an update has any man in that update ever said, I just don't know how I'm going to do this. I don't know how I'm going to be a dad and run my business. Meanwhile,
just
every
hit the
update,
nail
every
on the
update.
head, Sarah. Yeah.
And my husband gives speeches around the country. I give speeches, not as many as he does, and he has never once been asked, so how do you balance it all?
How do you fucking balance it?
And
all?
that's literally the lead question, like people will be like, okay, Sarah, we really want to know, how are you balancing this all? I'm like, my husband's never been asked that.
Wow. Yeah, because why would he? No, because that's what people also don't understand is I feel that pressure as well. Like I tell my husband, I'm like, yeah, well, we have kids tomorrow. That's great. But I still will feel the pressure. Like if I'm on the road and I've got to tour and do all those things. And at the end of the day, the baby, needs to be with me. We have to juggle 10 balls in the air to make one of them work. Mm-hmm. And I don't think enough. Listen, when this comes out, my audience is going to find this so refreshing because nobody has these candid conversations. They really don't. I mean, when I came out with Breadwinner, they were like, wow, finally someone's saying it. When I even talked to my first special about IVF, I was like, nobody's saying it.
I think it's great that you're doing that. Can we talk for a second and go offline and talk about the green room?
Oh, yeah. Let's talk about the green room.
The green room's not green.
The green room is not green.
It's never been green.
No, and sometimes the couch seems a little green because there's a lot of substances on it, but it's never green.
Can I tell you my theory of why it's called the green room?
Tell me.
Do you have a theory?
I'm usually face down in a charcuterie and I'm not paying attention or philosophize. Like, I'm not worried about it. What? Why do you think it's green?
These are the things that I'm going through life and I'm like, why is the green room not green? I think it's because everybody's about to puke and they turn green.
Oh.
So I think it's the holding room before you go live.
That would make
sense.
That would make sense.
The green room because you're green.
Yeah.
Because I used to sit there waiting for my 5 minutes for open mic and everyone looked green. We were all like, I'm going to throw up. And then they go, introducing Sara Blakely.
Did you ever have a certain pre-show ritual before you step on stage?
McDonald's.
McDonald's. What's your
Always.
order?
Well, the one on the way to Punchline on Roswell Road.
Oh, the best one.
But I would usually use it for the bathroom because I was so nervous.
Oh, yeah.
So
I still get nervous diarrhea before every show. It doesn't matter if I'm playing a club or Radio City.
Insane.
I could be solely sponsored by Pepto. You have no idea.
No, same.
And then they say it's not good to clog it up. You got to let it loose. You got to let it out.
We're going live tonight with Sarah, sponsored by Imodium AD. Let's do it. Take it away, Sarah. I literally was like, I felt bad for the McDonald's.
Yeah,
I did. I felt bad. It was the one place because it was just the right distance from the Punchline and my belly would be going nuts. Anyway, so that was a ritual. And do you want me to tell you a little bit about my comedy?
I do want to hear. Are you kidding me? I've been dying.
Because,
yeah.
I wrote all my material and I have notebooks and notebooks full of it that I haven't revisited. But two things that come to mind that I wrote that I think is funny, and feel free to take this.
Okay,
take it away, Heather. The first one was the stress of a vending machine.
Oh.
There's a tremendous amount of stress to make the right decision. And who the hell designed a vending machine? Like, why does it have to be A5?
It's always A5.
Why can't it be just one?
Mm-hmm. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Why can't the Doritos be one?
Yeah.
Why does it have to be A6? Like, that is so stressful. You're down to your last change.
And then the corkscrew. How we haven't figured out that technology? Because when a bag of Cheetos
stuck,
gets stuck in that little wheel,
you're beating. And then I'd always inevitably accidentally press the wrong one, and the pork rinds would be like, I'd be like, not the pork rinds. I didn't want that. So that was part of my comedy was.
Well, it's observational, so that's perfect.
Well, all my comedy was observational, I think, and then my own life, right? Like my dating life.
Right.
Then the other thing is, where do cuss words come from, and who decided what was a cuss word? And then I would say, was there a cuss word committee? Did people sit around?
Actually, there's a show on Netflix where I think it came out during the pandemic where they started. It's like a history of cuss words, and they broke it down. So you were years ahead of this.
Years ahead. So I was I always would say, was there a cuss word committee? Who decided what was a cuss word? And were they all sitting around and someone was like, shit, I don't know. And they were like, that's it.
That's it.
That's good. That's going to be one. And then I would say, and how did shucks get past the committee? It's got the sh and the uck. All in one word.
All in one word. And
that should be a bad word. Shucks should not have gone past the committee.
Listen, in the school I grew up in, shucks was a bad word.
And now that I've told you this, it's very clear why I needed to invent something and start a company. But I wanted to talk about this.
You named Spanx because of kind of the same idea, though, right?
I like making people laugh. I used all the stuff that I learned doing comedy in marketing.
Yeah.
It was so unheard of in 2000 to put "Don't worry, we've got your butt covered" on a packaging that was at Neiman Marcus. That kind of marketing speak did not exist. It was always the sheerest of the sheer upward motion elegance of the, you know what I
yeah.
mean? Like no one was like, hey, I'm going to make your butt look better.
Right. Did
Don't
you ever
worry.
do QVC or HSN?
Did I do QVC?
That's actually my dream job.
This was my home away from home. Okay, can we talk about?
Let's talk
I
about
spent
it.
so much time in Fraser, Pennsylvania, at the Sheridan Great Valley on the highway. Have you been?
I have not been yet. I'm waiting for the day that I'm selling like pashminas or cargo shorts to women in the
It's
Midwest. It's my dream.
Wild. Put that on your vision board.
I put it on the vision board.
I need to see you standing on the stage of QVC on that vision board.
Well, because Joan Rivers was the reason I got into comedy, and
She was always in the green room with me.
Always in the green room. I always buy her pins and lapels and everything. I mean, talk about, and even into her late 70s, she was doing 3-hour broadcasts.
Oh,
let's talk about the green room
I
at QVC.
spent so much time at QVC in the green room, and I that's where I sold there so much. Anyway, I had such a lame social life that I remember one day I checked into the Sheridan Great Valley, and they said we're having a luau in the parking lot, and I was actually really excited. It was like this
You
disgusting
got suckling pig on there.
Yeah. And it was like all these men in bad suits, and they're all standing around like talking about the insurance they sell. And I'm like, yeah, okay, like this is rock bottom for me. But anyway, I did QVC so much. It's so cool. It's so wild. Can I tell you a few stories? So
Please, tell me
Joan
whatever.
Rivers was always there. So we were always passing in the hall, and like she'd be on at midnight. I'm like, this woman's insane.
Right.
What age is she? And she's got this much energy, you know? And I'd be on air, and they'd be in my microphone, and they'd be like, turn again, shake your butt again. Sales just went through the roof. Like they're watching in real time, and like this voice is talking to you in your ear, and you're like, wait, what? And anyway, I was in the green room with this guy one time, and we were both really nervous. He's like, good luck. What's your product called? I'm like, it's called Spanx. I'm like, what's your product called? He's like, it's a video camera on a watch. So I went out. My sales went nuts. Like I'd been standing in Neiman, Saks, and Nordstrom 8 to 10 hours a day, selling 30 pair a day, icing my feet in a bucket in those cheap hotels with the bucket of ice machine at the end of the hall. I get on QVC, I sell 10,000 pair in 6 minutes. Like, I don't even know what, my head like popped off. But anyway, I went to the green room, and I'm like, oh, I was like vibrating. I was like, oh my God, I was like 29, you know? And the guy that came back off, no one bought his camera at all. He was like, I go, hang in there, you're gonna figure this out. I go, you're gonna figure this out. And guess what he created? GoPro.
Oh, he's doing fine. Okay. Well, yeah, he's doing, but that's a.
So he's a friend of mine, Nick Woodman. Like
Shout out to Nick. Nick, we love you, Nick.
Nick, you know, sometimes you got to fail a few times to get.
Actually, Nick, I'd like for you to call me because my husband used your product. I'm looking directly to the camera. My husband took a GoPro on one of our first trips to Italy 8 years ago, and I have never seen the footage. She was like, "Oh, I'm going to make this great video. I need someone from GoPro to reach out to me directly because I need to get this footage made." Okay, wait, that's amazing.
Isn't that hilarious? So he went from like this idea of the cameras on, so he was going like this on QVC and no one bought it. And then it led him to GoPro.
Are there any other entrepreneurs that we would know about that you're still like really close with? That coming up at the same time.
A woman named Leslie Blodgett who started Bare Minerals and Bare Essentials makeup.
Can I tell you?
Love her.
I have been their phrase is swirl, buff, and tap. I have been swirl buffing and tapping since that was my first makeup set. I am a Bare Minerals diehard.
Okay, well,
diehard.
Leslie is the best, and
Okay.
she and I were always in the green room together.
She was always on QVC because it's swirl, buff, and tap.
Oh yeah, always.
Yeah, you
with the
tap it
half
on the thing.
face, half
Yep.
the face with no makeup on, and half the face, and it was like, yeah. So
I just want to come on and be a before and after. Like I want to be. They're like, you could look like Heather, and then then an hour later, I've got the full face on.
Heather, I was my own before and after. Like I was
yes.
every department at Spanx for a long time, right? Because that's just what you do. So
Right.
I took pictures. I had my friend take a picture of my butt without Spanx on and white pants and cream pants and and went to Kinko's, laminated it, and stood at Neiman Marcus with the nicest dressed women in America holding a laminated picture of my butt. Not looking great with a big old panty line
Right.
and, whatever, cellulite. And then it's smooth as anything. And would just stand there all day and go, hi, I created this product. I didn't know what to wear under my pants if you have this problem.
Yeah.
And so I did the before and afters of my own butt on QVC forever, all the way through, all the way to where
that's
people
why-
were like, Sarah, you're Time Woman of the Year,
Right.
whatever.
We don't
Does
need
it
to
need
see
to be
dad
your
ass.
Does it need to be your butt? And I'm like,
But
yes.
that's why people connected to the product because it was solving a real problem.
It was.
And you're still wearing it. I mean, I
know.
also just side note, like I probably maybe like your fifth top customer. I mean, I I live in Spanx. Also, the best active wear.
I know
everything.
Your sweatshirt,
my
Spanx,
sweatshirt, all my jeans are Spanx.
Yeah,
all the Air Essentials.
I know.
Chef's kiss.
It's the best.
But
we really take time to make
Yeah.
thoughtful products, and men had been making all of them prior, really in a meaningful way. So we think of everything. We're women. We're like. We're
problem solvers.
We are.
Do you get to, when you're trying to out to lunch with the fam? Do people come up to you all the time like, "Hey, I need 10 seconds. This is my Shark Tank idea."
Yes.
And you're like, "Can I just have this chicken salad sandwich real
Yes.
quick?"
Yes.
Right. How do you navigate that?
It's tough, you know. So I ended up creating a master class, and
smart.
I love that because then a lot of times will either gift them my master class or I say I've put all this insight and and I really care. I wish I could give everybody 15 minutes, but I have friends that are very, very famous actresses, and we hang out sometimes in public, and people come up to them and are like, "Loved you in this," huge fan, right? Which is one thing. People come up to me and they're like,
"Can you solve my life's problems?
Can you please solve my life's problems? And can you tell me what to do now that I have a warehouse? And what do I do logistically?" Like it's so much more. I
get the same thing. I'll be out with people who are far more famous than me, and they just keep rolling. It's like, "Hey, loved you in Mean Girls," or whatever.
Right.
Keep going, and then they're like, "So here's the deal. My divorce is happening. He took everything. What do I do? Can I live with you?" And I'm like, "Oh God, I don't know what to do." It's a totally different relationship when you do comedy and you're an entrepreneur. It is. They're like, "You can help me."
Yeah.
And I'm like, "I'm trying to help myself."
Right.
I'm trying to figure it out.
Right.
For myself.
Or can I show you a product that I created?
Don't worry, I have a full business pitch for once we're done with this podcast.
See,
I have
can't
a
go
billion ideas for
anywhere.
you.
I can't go anywhere without being pitched.
Listen, you've been so incredibly successful, and you're continuing to create and solve problems for women, which is the biggest thing. At the end of the day, like, I just want to make people giggle, and I know my audience is strongly, fiercely female, and I really looked up to you because you are a problem solver. But what do you do when you're not thinking about work and you get to, what does your self-care look like? Because that's the thing. You've been working your ass off for a long time.
Yeah.
How often do you actually just sit down and you're like, "I'm doing this for me. I'm sitting down and I'm taking a break"? What does your day off look like?
Not much,
Right.
because now I have 4 kids.
Right.
So come on,
Right.
But I will tell you that I'm very intentional about spending time alone. And I would take a solo vacation once a quarter. And I would go away for 2 nights. And then I realized it needed to be more than 2 nights. So it was 3 nights.
Yeah.
And I would just be by myself. And I would go check in somewhere and think and daydream and just
weep. A little bit of weeping.
Sleep and weep, man. Sleep and weep and take a lot of hot baths. But I did that. And then when I turned 50, my husband's like, "What do you want?"
Right.
And I have this tradition. I take my childhood friends every year on my birthday on a surprise trip. And
Listen,
they
don't give my friends any ideas. I can't afford it just yet, Sarah.
They don't know where they're going. I only tell them hot or cold and if they need a passport. But anyway, so that is a tradition I still do. I've been doing this for 18 years, and it's wild. It's so fun. And these are girls that are like working moms. They never do anything for themselves. So this is really fun to do. But so I did that on my 50th. But Jesse's like, "What else do you want?" I said, "I want to be alone for 7 days." Is that hilarious?
I'm working on.
He was like, "Huh?" He was like ready to throw me this huge party.
Yeah.
I go,
"Don't touch me. Don't talk to me. Don't get near me.
I want to be
do sex.
alone
I
for
don't wanna do
7
kids.
days. Nothing."
But that's the plight of a woman.
So it is. That sums it up. So
You're
went.
overstimulated.
We're so overstimulated. I went to Palmetto Bluff in South Carolina.
Gorgeous.
Checked into this little bungalow looking at a marsh. Never left the bungalow except for to get a massage. I rode the little bike to the spa, got a massage, biked back, ate every meal in the bungalow, French fries twice a day, wine at night, hot baths, lots of chocolate. Never left the bungalow.
Perfection.
7 days later, I was like, "I'm good.
Right.
I'm good."
You reemerge through the marsh, and
I
you're
did.
like,
I came out from the marsh. There
I'm
was
a new
moss in
person.
my hair,
Yeah.
and I'm like, "Okay, let's do the next 50." But I mean, that's what I wanted.
That is the truth. Listen, I am going to eventually get elective plastic surgery just so I can be on drugs for a week so no one will talk to me.
Right.
That's where I'm at.
That's
I'm
bad.
Like, I don't know. Do I need my
Listen,
eyes done
I'm giving
just
you
so people
I
can
know.
just
No,
shut the
I'm-
fuck up and
yeah.
not talk to me?
I'm giving you permission to take a solo vacation without having to get plastic
Yeah.
surgery. Listen, plastic surgery, I have so many friends who've done it, and this is my philosophy.
Okay.
I don't want to look mad, sad, or tired.
Truth.
I will spend any amount of money
Yeah.
not to look mad, sad, or tired. So
I'm leaning
Sign me
tired,
up.
so
Sign me up.
We just got to tuck it back up.
I don't mind looking my age. I'm not one of
Same.
those girls that's like, I'm 53 and I want to look 41. That's not me. But I don't want to look mad, sad, or tired. I don't want people coming up to me all day and going,
Are you okay?
Are you tired? I'm like, no, I'm old and I have circles under my eyes. That's genetic. So what do you want from me? You know?
That's the thing. As a woman, it's mad, sad, or tired if you're successful, right? Or even if you're not, it's just, hey, are you good? Are you tired? You're like, no, I'm just working my ass off. And then of course, men, as they get older and the salt and pepper and they age like a fine wine. Meanwhile, I'm over here just like sweating with a hormone imbalance, praying I don't have an eczema flare up before I have to be on camera.
100%.
We're fighting for our lives.
What's going
over here.
on with the hormones? I can't. This is a whole nother podcast. I need to
I
come
know.
back
Don't
another
worry.
day to talk about that.
I'll wrap it up. The
That's
hormones
insane.
Listen, I'm sure you've got a good Rolodex of people, and I like to go. I will be a guinea pig. You can draw my blood. You can spin it. You can put it in my eyebrows. I don't care. But the hormones have been a wild ride. I mean, IVF really messed me up, and now that I know that I have to go and do it again this year, my asshole's clenched because I'm just like, oh God, here we go.
Yeah.
Your hormones change obviously as you age anyways, and I
have an 8-year-old. Okay, I have an 8-year-old, two 10-year-olds, and a 15-year-old going through perimenopause. Okay, now I understand why our eggs go bad. Because like God, she did not intend for us to have 8-year-olds during this chapter. Okay? What the hell is happening in my life? My daughter the other day was in the kitchen. She had 3 friends over and she goes, I'm tired. And one of her friends goes, what's wrong? She goes, I have menopause. And I started laughing so hard. I go, Tepper, menopause is not when you're tired, it's when you're old. She's like, oh, like, mommy's always tired because it's menopause. So she thinks tired is menopause. I'm like, honey, you're not in menopause.
I knew my mom was going through menopause when I came home from high school one day, and she was folding laundry, hysterically crying, sweating, and drinking at the same time. And my mom's like a very petite woman. I was like, are you good? She's like, no, I'm not good. There's so many fucking socks. And I was like, I'm going to go to soccer practice. I'm going to come back in an hour. I'm going to let you collect yourself. And listen, my mom had me at 40. It checks out why I do comedy.
Oh, wow.
So I'm hoping that,
My mom
a
had me
couple
at
old eggs will be good.
22.
I know.
She was a baby.
Baby.
She had just turned 22.
That's wild.
Wow. Okay.
But listen,
40. You know what I just saw on Instagram?
What?
And if it's on Instagram, it's true.
Well, obviously.
So I saw this thing. It said, if you have a baby over the age of 35, your chances to live to be like 90 is 4x. And if you have a baby at 40 or older, your chances of living to be 100 goes up exponentially. Isn't that wild?
What is the...
So there's a perk of you waiting. You're going to live forever.
But also, I'm kind of like, I want to be the lady who chokes on a Chinese chicken salad while smoking a cigarette at a nice restaurant in West Palm when I'm like 75. I want to, you know what I mean?
Don't put that out there. Can we make that 95?
95, but no, I feel like in another 35 years, it's not going to be great. I mean,
Have you seen Jane Fonda? We were just with her.
I know, she looks great.
She's 86.
She's fantastic. But also,
She's also been working out her whole life.
Literally. My mom used to do all of her tapes.
I know.
And I was the kid, because I was a chubby kid, I was doing Tae Bo. My mom bought all the Tae Bo tapes for me and was like, Heather, you got to work off the baby fat. I was the Tae Bo kid in the basement. Oh, yeah. Did you ever do Tae Bo?
No, I don't even know what you're talking about.
Oh, Tae Bo.
What
Billy Blanks.
is Tae Bo?
We'll talk about a fitness entrepreneur. Billy Blanks it was a style of like mixed martial arts and essentially like kickboxing. And Mr. Billy Blanks, you got to do a little research on this guy. He's crazy. And I would buy all of his DVDs off QVC, and I was the chubby kid in the 7th grade doing the Billy Blanks Tae Bo videos. I know. That's honestly why I do comedy. So yes, to answer your question from earlier, there is a lot of drama. It was because I was a fat kid, and that's why I tell jokes now. But you know what? Thank you for making Spanx so that a chubby kid could fit into their homecoming dress. So just want you to know, Sarah, you changed my life.
I'm here for you, Heather.
Hey, are there any absolute yeses in your life? Or any, positive manifestations you want to put out there before I let you go?
I mean, it's a yes that the divine feminine is rising up. And
Amen.
I think that it's time and there's going to be more of a balance on the planet between the masculine and the feminine. And we have that energy in all of us. We're all made up of both masculine and feminine energy, but the feminine's been really squashed. So I'm going to say it's an absolute yes that the feminine needs to step right up and have her moment and balance the shit out.
You heard it here first. Sara, thank you so much for being here. And where can everybody find Sneex and Spanx and all of it?
So Sneex.com,
Yep.
SNEEX.com, and Spanx, everywhere.
Everywhere on me. Just peel it
Everywhere
off my body.
but Barnes & Noble.
Thank you so much for being here. We'll see you guys on the next episode of Absolutely Not. Ciao Bella, arrivederci.